don't they? 'Cause when you arrived, there were all those cars, but it didn't seem like much was going on in Cave City.
The jury's out on some cases as to all the transmission possibilities. We know that the bats are at least transmitting it to each other, but they will migrate between caves sometimes, which is helping spread.
They come from the East Coast?
Came from Europe originally and showed up in the northeast there around Howe Cavern's the first one that reported it in New York.
How long ago was that?
2006.
It spread quickly then.
Once it gets within a site, it will kill about 95 to 100% of the population in about 3 years. Come on down, folks. Watch out for the most dangerous animal in Mammoth Cave National Park there.
Feels cool.
Lord, that really did run him off.
You scared him.
I ran somebody off, didn't I? Folks, welcome out to the historic entrance. Nearly 5,000 years ago is when the first people chose to enter into Mammoth Cave for that very first time. We know that from artifacts that have been left behind in the cave. Not only did they enter this cave, but they kind of got an obsession with Mammoth Cave. And that obsession is one that has continued to this day. Believe it or not, if you look back in Mammoth Cave's history, it is all about obsessions. And we'll talk about some of those as we're going through today. Now, believe it or not, some of those obsessions that people got with Mammoth Cave led them to never leave Mammoth Cave. We'll talk about that along the route too. Now, before we head in, I want to make sure that you guys are staying safe. I also want to make sure that you're helping us to protect the cave. Every group that comes here, we have to go over the rules with them, so bear with me for just a minute. If you've been on any other cave tour, you've already heard these rules. For those of you that haven't, hang on just a minute. It's going to be a wild ride. Folks, when we first enter into the cave today, the lighting is going to be somewhat low compared to what it is here on the surface. And once we pass through the entrance gate, if you do not see the low-hanging ledges, we will all know when you have found them. It's usually from someone's head cracking along that hard limestone rock, followed by a string of words that comes out afterwards. There are some very tender ears here today, folks, that do not need new vocabulary words to go home with. Make sure what you're saying before you say it, okay? And it's also kind of a common courtesy that if you do accidentally bump your head, turn around the person behind you and go, low edge, as opposed to, watch this, because we have heard that too. So please, be courteous to those folks around you today as well. And we are kind of a small group. This is not the largest group we usually take. It's right about half of what we normally take in here. Probably a little less than half of what we normally take in here. So we do need to stay together as a group as much as possible. I'm going to ask that as we're going through, you stay on the trail. Since this area has been traveled for so many years, there are artifacts that are still laying off the sides of the trail. And if you step off, you run the risk of crushing those, and it could destroy part of Mammoth Cave history. Also, we don't want you to stand up on the rocks that are lining the trail. Just because they're there, what their purpose is to kind of guide us where we need to go. If you get up and stand on one of those rocks, I will not guarantee you that it will not throw you somewhere you don't want to be, like down a deep hole. So please, stay on the trail, stay off the rocks. Oh, where's my youngsters? Those that are under 16, raise your hand. Because you have the most important job here besides Ranger Shannon and myself. Okay? I need you to stay within an arm's reach of whoever brought you today. And I'm going to tell you why. Sometimes the lights go off in the cave. And do you know what happens when people find themselves in dark, unfamiliar locations? They panic and they scream. Guess who it is screaming? 35. So young folks, your job today, calm down the old folks, okay? Think you can do that? Like, why are you putting all this pressure on me? Oh, and folks, no flash photography. If you're going to be taking pictures, we welcome that. Don't just spend all your time taking pictures, but make sure you've got that flash off before we go in. And that's also for walking through today. The front of the group seems to be a little bit slower moving than the back of the group. If you're at the back of the group, it sometimes feels like you're rushing through. So as we're making our stops today, if you need to rearrange yourself in the group to where you're having a more comfortable pace, let us know. I'm usually at the front, I set the pace. If you are very slow walking, I kind of gear that towards you. Ranger Shannon there, he's usually running to keep up with us, so keep that in mind. You'll figure out where you need to be if we're going through your cave today. Other than that, folks, we do want your help in protecting this cave. So as we're going through, whatever you're taking in with you today, please bring it back out. Whatever is down inside of the cave, leave it there. No smoking, that means those e-cigarettes too. I can't believe I'm having to say that, but that too. No eating, no drinking. You brought bottled water, that is perfectly fine. Water is natural to the cave here. No writing on the wall. You will see where that has taken place a lot, and we'll talk about why those signatures are there at one of our stops today. I'm going to ask that you not even touch the walls. When we get down to Fat Man's Misery, folks, every single one of us are going to probably touch through there. That is the one place where you can touch the cave. Other than that, try not to touch those cave walls or ceilings that we're going through unless you are slipping and falling. And then safety is the first factor there.